All right, so this is a new semester of digital art. We are looking at Photo Bucket, and we are going to start the first exercise, which is a compositing exercise. So I'm going to start by going to the library, or navigating down to Digital Art 1 exercises, and exercise 1, the cartoon jumble. This folder, which is empty right now, this is where we're going to take our finished work and turn it in, and then label it with our names. But within each assignment and each exercise, there is a subfolder with past student examples. So that can give you an idea of the variety of things that can be done. And we see things that look really different here. We see black and white. We see backgrounds. We see really, really messy, complex designs. And we see kind of simpler, self-contained designs. One thing I want you to notice from all of these is they are not cropped. The content is all contained. So we want to try to create what I call a jumble. Think of it as like a meteorite in space. We see it from all sides, right? So it's not going to be cropped off on any side. And there's really no one orientation for it. It might look just as good upside down as it does right side up, right? That's the nice thing about having a free floating format. Now we have to decide what we're going to make our cartoon jumble out of. And I can recognize some elements here. This is from Marvel Comics, right? And the parameters for this assignment are that you are not allowed to make pixels. Instead, we have to composite with other people's pixels. And we need no fewer than 5 separate references that we composite together. So how do we find images that are worth using? We also want to make this print quality. So we go to a Google image search. And the easiest way to do that is just go to Google and then click on images, right? Google image search, you'll see the little camera there. And then you all picked a cartoon or a comic strip, some sort of line-based character or series that you liked. I mentioned Garfield. I think I've done that before. I'm going to try He-Man. And you type that in, you'll get a bunch of images. The problem is these are not line art images, right? And these are also all kinds of different resolutions. And that means how many pixels they are. And we want high quality images, a lot of resolution. So we are going to limit it using tools. So in your image search, click on tools. First thing we're going to limit is size. And we are going to want larger than 6 megapixels, which means the pixel resolution has to be at least 2,816 pixels by 2,112 pixels. That's not a huge ask, but it's going to narrow down the results considerably. The next thing we want to limit it to is color, right? We want just black and white images. So now we have images that are large enough. This is under tools in a Google image search. They're larger than 6 megapixels. Not just large, but larger than 6 megapixels. They are black and white images, but that still doesn't mean they're all line art images, right? Some of them are 3D models in grayscale. Some of them are birthday cards. So now I want to go to type, and I want to limit it to line drawing. And now we're getting a little bit closer, right? Now all of these are tags that are not always accurate, right? So it doesn't mean that every image here is good. They don't all relate. But now this gives us a much more consistent pool that gives us things to use. So what you're basically looking for are the equivalent of coloring book pages at a high enough resolution with a head-to-toe piece of line art or a whole head, something that's self-contained and not cropped. And once you find them, I have a lot of them just kind of served up to me right away. This is how we start searching for them. So notice I only have 2 tabs open right now. I have the Google image search and I have Photo Bucket. So if you right-click on one you're interested in, I'm sorry, not right-click. If you left-click on one you're interested in, you'll get this little preview screen, which can save you some time. That shows you right away if the image is at all what it looks like it is, right? If it looks bad here, you cannot use it for any reason. But if it looks good here, you still have to do an extra step because sometimes they're locked, the content's locked. So you right click and then you say open image in new tab. And it will open up a brand new tab in your browser that will go right to the image unless there's some fancy coding that makes that difficult. And then it will have a little magnifying glass because we're looking for images that are 6 megapixels or bigger. And if they are, they're going to be bigger than the screen. Basically, to be decent print quality, it needs to be about 4 times bigger than your screen. Right. Because we're only going to be printing these at 8 by 10, we only need them to be about 6 megapixels. But this is a good image. Once I can see that that's a good image, and I can see that even though it's a raster image, and if I zoom in more, I can eventually get to the individual pixels. They are sufficiently, at 100%, it is sufficiently large that it looks clean, and I can save that to the desktop. I have 2 options to save it to the desktop. I can simply drag and drop it to the desktop, but I always want to make sure I can use F11 as my shortcut key, that there's an icon there for it. There it is. Or I can right click and say save image as. When this comes up, make sure to hit Command D to navigate it to the desktop. So if it's going somewhere else, you can hit Command D and it will automatically navigate it. And then you hit save. Right. If you accidentally save something twice, Mac will do a nice thing for you where it will just put a 1 after its title. So I've copied it now 3 times. So I have the name that was given by the original source. I have the name that was given by the original source with the word copy added to it. The computer did that for me. And then I have the name that was given to the original source with a 1. But I don't need all of those. So what do I do with the stuff I don't need? I pull that down, not to the trash, but to my downloads folder. So if you ever accidentally download too much, just pull it back to downloads. But the stuff on the desktop is the stuff we want to use. I want 5 different sources, but I'm going to leave that tab open. And then open the image in the new tab. Don't open the link in the new tab or it will take you to the site. We're just interested in the image on its own. These all look like they come from the same site. So I'm pretty confident in the quality of all of them, but I'm still going to check each one. Now, the reason we're using kind of one cartoon or character or one series is so that the line art is somewhat consistent, right? But you could do this with anything. You could do this with blueprints. You could do this with maps, as long as it's line art. Whoops, I clicked a little too many times. And so it went ahead and opened up the site, but I don't want that. I just want I want to right click, say open image in new tab. I want to check them and then save them to the desktop. And wait till they show up. Okay. And then last one for my 5. There he is. All right. So I've got 5. That doesn't mean we have to stop at 5. There might be more I want, right? And maybe I want it from a different source. So you can go ahead and get as many as 8 different images, but please stop there. This is the inspiration phase, and sometimes we can go overboard. And for this exercise, we don't need all that many. Because often what happens is that you get sidetracked, and you say, oh, I forgot about Battle Cat. Oh, I forgot about She-Ra, right? And you'll say, I want that too. So try to just limit yourself to no more than 8. There's certainly no shortage of He-Man characters. And I got lucky being that there was a coloring book made available online at high resolution. Now you'll notice the difference between line art. So here we have, this is a good example. All right, so this can happen, right? This showed up in the search. It should be big enough. But when I left click on it, notice how it's not that big. That's a bad sign. And so then when I check it, open image and new tab, that's why we always check. That's how big it is, right? And so that is not good, because then if I used that, this is its quality. So you always want to make sure to check it individually before you save it. But you'll also see that He-Man has a lot of different kinds of line art. Like this is a fun one. I do open image and new tab. This is some fan art. It's pretty fun. It's a composite in its own right. But notice how this line art is a very different kind of feel than this line art, right? This is done with a brush. This is more of a This is more of a technical line where everything's the same width. So even though they're both He-Man, they might not go well together in my cartoon jumble. But this is pretty fun. But you guys get to decide what's consistent. Right? And there's no reason I couldn't mix in some other stuff if I wanted to. If I wanted to combine He-Man with coat of arms, I could. I'm not trying to limit you too much, just as long as you're using other people's pixels to practice compositing. All right, once you have your sources, we can minimize our search. Because who knows, we might have to come back to this and work on it more. Like this one's a really nice one. But again, this looks kind of small, so it worries me a little bit. So if I open the image in a new tab, it's going to show me the real size of it. And often things are coded wrong, right? And so this is the thumbnail instead of the image itself. So it's just not adequate resolution to use. So sometimes it takes some searching, especially because we're stealing people's work here, and it's protected work. And we'll talk more about that. And then sometimes people just delete the high resolution file, but the thumbnail remains. The registry of it remains. And it's best not to use things like this anyway, because it's not kind of a self-contained image, right? It's got a lot on its edges. Okay, so I'm going to keep all these references open, just in case I screw them up. I'll also keep my Google search open, and I'll also keep Photo Bucket open, but then I'm going to minimize it. And now I need to set it up in Photoshop. So I've got 7. I don't need 7, and they're all so similar. I definitely don't need 7, but it will show you how it works. This exercise is designed to teach you through repetition. So I'm going to show you how to set them up, and then this video will end, and I will come around and help you guys set them up. But if you want to do this along with me right now, you certainly can. First thing I'm going to do is open up Photoshop just on its own, and then I'm going to say File, New. By opening up a new file in Photoshop, I get to control the resolution. I don't have to just take whatever's given to me. So when we do a new file, we're going to start it with our name, our first name, and then we're going to call this Exercise 1. Cartoon Jumble. And if you want to give it another descriptor, you certainly can. But you always need your name and some sort of description. Then you get to pick the size, the physical size it is. And I'm going to make mine 8 inches wide by 10 inches tall, portrait format. And then the resolution we are always going to use for this lab is 350 pixels per inch, which is 50 pixels per inch higher than professional standard resolution.